The Ontario government is expected to make an announcement today that lays out its plans for the education sector, potentially including issues such as class sizes, sex education, and teacher hiring. Union leaders say they have not yet been given any details, but they expect to see cuts to help address a multi-billion-dollar provincial deficit. The Education Ministry told school boards earlier this month to defer filling vacancies for retirements and other leaves for teachers and other staff until an update from the minister. The government has been consulting since January on class sizes and teacher hiring practices, including asking whether hard caps on class sizes should continue. It's also been gathering feedback on a new sex education curriculum, promising that a new one will be ready for the fall. The Progressive Conservatives repealed a 2015 curriculum from the previous Liberal government that addressed consent, online bullying, sexting, same-sex relationships, and gender identity. Today's education update is also expected to contain changes to the math curriculum, with Premier Doug Ford often talking of scrapping the so-called Discovery Math curriculum and getting back to basics.
Against the Ontario Public Service, against AMAPCO, a public sector union, and against ALCO, another public sector union representing provincial workers. Jean Marie and Hentros are here to tell you why they're filing this $26 million discrimination lawsuit this morning, how the treatment of anti-Black racism within the public service and within public service unions has affected them.
Two Ontario Public Service employees have launched a lawsuit against the provincial government and the unions that represent them, alleging they've been subjected to systemic racism for years. Jean Marie Dixon and Hentros Nelson claim they experienced prolonged anti-Black racism that led to harassment and mistreatment over their careers in the Ontario Public Service. They allege such mistreatment took the form of aggression from colleagues, coordinated attempts at intimidation, being mistaken for janitorial staff, and demotion from long-held positions. The two women also allege the unions they belong to failed to respond to their complaints and upheld a culture of systemic racism. The $26 million lawsuit, which contains unproven allegations, calls for a number of actions, including a Truth and Conciliation Commission for racialized employees of the Ontario Public Service and anti-racism training for all staff. Both women allege mistreatment at the hands of individual co-workers, harassment from peers and superiors, and a lack of support from the labor groups ostensibly there to help them fight back against workplace discrimination. On Wednesday, 58-year-old Kimberly Marie Atherton Johnston was arrested for impaired driving. Officers observed a vehicle on Laurier Avenue up on a snowbank with the engine running. They found the accused sleeping behind the wheel. When officers woke her up, they detected a strong smell of alcohol and she was unstable on her feet. She was arrested and failed a subsequent blood alcohol test conducted at the police station. She's charged with 1 count of impaired driving and 1 count of consuming over the legal limit. She's scheduled to appear in court on April 15th. Finance Minister Bill Morneau said yesterday that the federal Liberal government's fourth budget is going to include measures to help Canadians cover their bills if they choose to head back to school to boost their skills or change careers. In what will be Morneau's last fiscal blueprint before this fall's federal election, the Liberals plan to create a skills training savings account for adults that modeled on one in Singapore, that from a government source to the Canadian press. The Singaporean program, launched in 2016, actually provides every eligible resident over age 25 a $500 credit to use for government-backed training courses. Workers over 40 can receive a subsidy of up to 90% for approved courses. The program sounds similar to a registered education savings plan for mid-career adults, but the government has been warned that people who make less money might not save as officials hope, replicating problems the government has tried to overcome in the RESP program.
I want to start by saying that we are currently dealing with an unprecedented situation in New Zealand. It's very grave, it's very serious. We have dealt with an active shooter situation.
New Zealand police say they're not aware of other suspects beyond the 4 who've been arrested after shootings in 2 mosques, but they can't be certain. Police Commissioner Mike Bush did not elaborate on the suspects who are in custody. Australia's Prime Minister confirms an Australian citizen is under arrest. Police Commissioner Bush says there are multiple fatalities. The shootings occurred at 2 mosques in the Christchurch area during Friday afternoon prayers, and there are reports that 40 people were killed.
Many of those who will have been directly affected by this shooting may be migrants to New Zealand. They may even be refugees here. They have chosen to make New Zealand their home, and it is their home. They are us. The person who has perpetuated this violence against us is not. They have no place in New Zealand. There is no place in New Zealand for such acts of extreme and unprecedented violence.
The Republican-run Senate rejected President Donald Trump's declaration of a national emergency at the southwest border yesterday, setting up a veto fight and dealing with him on a conspicuous rebuke.
You can be for the wall or against the wall. You can think what we're doing at the southern border is inadequate. But that issue pales before the issue before us. And that is how far an executive can reach when Congress does not want to do what that executive wants.